Conan Exiles has many powerful tools, but none are as supremely useful as Admin Mode. With the ability to spawn resources, summon enemies, build enormous fortresses with ease, and wield the power of gods, this is something you need to know. It's incredibly useful for everything from practicing building to cutting your way through dungeons, and today I'm going to show you exactly how it works. So without further ado, let's get started. Firstly, you can't access Admin Mode everywhere. You either need to be in single player, or be on a server where you are a designated administrator or have access to the admin password. That means that if you're playing on official servers, there is no way to access Admin Mode. So first things first, you've got to get into Admin Mode, and there are two ways to do that. The first is through the console, which you can access by hitting the tilde key on your keyboard. You type make me admin, all one word, and if there is an admin password you type it in here, you press enter and you're done. The other way is opening the pause menu and going to settings, server settings, and clicking make me admin. I'm not sure how many consoles can access the command line with a keyboard plugged in, so if you are on console and you can't use a keyboard, then just go through the pause menu. If you ever need to exit out of admin, you can either open the console and type make me normal, all one word, or just leave and rejoin the session. Both will strip you of the admin role, but not some of the permissions. We'll touch more on that later. Admin Mode also grants access to quite a few commands that are otherwise not on the panel. I covered many of those in my best admin commands video, but whilst we're here, it's worth noting that the admin panel has access to fast kill and destroy options. Shift and delete together will instantly kill any enemy you look at or destroy a single building piece. Control, Shift and delete together will also kill or destroy a single target, but if you press it again and again it becomes an area of effect that will kill enemies around your cursor or destroy building pieces around it. Both are really worth knowing, as it's a quick way to easily kill or destroy anything. Once you've been granted admin permissions, open the pause menu again and you'll see two new options, Admin Panel and Enter Creative Mode. Click Admin Panel to open, the admin panel. If you're on PC or your console supports keyboard input, you can also press Shift and Insert together as a hotkey to open the admin panel without hitting pause. There's quite a bit of information on this panel and it can be quite intimidating when you first see it. However, we're going to break it down section by section so you know exactly what everything is and how it works. So let's begin on the left side. Firstly, player stats. This is dead simple, each button pretty much does what it says on the tin. Plus Encumber increases your maximum encumbrance with each press. Health Min sets your health to 1. Health Max puts it back to the maximum. Plus 1 Feat gives you 1 knowledge point per press, and plus Level gives you 1 level per press, and that goes past the level cap. You can also manually type and set a level using the set level function, typing the number in the dialog box and then hitting apply, and this caps out at the base level cap of 60. The other commands section is where you'll find a bunch of useful stuff, though some things here don't do anything. Print XP and Show State seem to fall into that latter camp. They don't really do anything when you press them, so it may be a function tied to developer or debug commands. The walk and fly buttons are self-explanatory. Press fly and you will enter fly mode, and press walk and you will return to travelling on foot. Movement Speed Multiplier increases your movement speed based on the number you put into the dialog box. 1 is the default value, 2 makes you move at double speed, 0.5 at half speed, and so on. I remember a good few years ago people said this command was really buggy. I've done some brief testing and it appears to work fine now. It does reset after death, but just always remember the default value is 1 and you can always input that to return back to normal if you don't want to die to reset it. Also, if you're finding this video helpful thus far, do drop a like, it very much helps the channel out. There's quite a few modifiers next, so we'll rapid fire them. Cloak makes enemies ignore you. Invisibility makes your character invisible to everyone aside from the server host. Demigod multiplies your health by 100 and refills it to max every couple of seconds, meaning that you can't really die in any situation other than fall damage or the cursed wall. God makes you invincible to everything aside from the curse wall, and also stops you taking status effects, knockbacks, or staggers from attacks. No sprint cost disables stamina drain for any activity that usually costs stamina. Ghost is a no-clip letting you fly through buildings and even the map itself, though it sometimes bugs out making you clip with objects again. To fix that you just re-enter the command. This command also often causes rain for some reason, even in biomes where it never rains, and on Siptar sometimes changes the lighting, both of which can be fixed by setting the weather value to 0. We'll explain that command a little bit more later on. No building costs disables resource cost for building, allowing you to build freely. Unlock all recipes gives you access to every single crafting recipe you can learn or earn in-game, excluding stuff from the DLC, Battle Pass or Bazaar if you don't already own them. Ignore stability loss disables the stability loss mechanic when building, meaning ceilings, roofs, etc. no longer lose stability as they go further away from a source, and you can essentially build anything atop one single stability source. Finally, no spell costs disables the resource cost for sorcery, letting you cast freely regardless of the reagents or corruption levels you have. It's worth noting that almost all of these commands can be typed into the console to manually activate and deactivate them without opening the panel, which is oftentimes a lot faster. The modifiers like God, Cloak, etc. will remain active until you turn them off, and that does persist through leaving and rejoining the game, or at least it does on single player. Thus, even if you leave admin mode, you'll still be invulnerable if you toggled God mode on when you're in admin, for example. The hunger and thirst section is really quite simple. Eating disables hunger and thirst loss when it's ticked off. Hungry drops your food meter to 0 when ticked on, and thirsty does the same for your water meter. The food and water options below with the plus or minus buttons will add or remove 25% of each respective meter, depending on, of course, if you click the plus or the minus. Day and night cycle controls is kind of deceptively named, as this section does also have environmental and weather controls too, and it affects the entire server. Time of day is a drop-down menu with presets for dusk, noon and dawn. Set day length lets you change the length of an entire in-game day in minutes. 30 is the default, and the lowest you can go is 0.1 or 10 seconds. Set time of day lets you manually set the time of day according to a 24-hour clock from 0 to 24. Freeze time prevents time from advancing, so if you tick the box at 7:20 AM in-game, it will stay at that time until you untick it, where it will continue from the point you left it at. Freeze sky prevents the sky from changing, but time still advances. The only difference that you'd actually notice is that enemies that only spawn at night, like the Sacred Hunt's were hyenas, can spawn during what would be nighttime if the sky was unfrozen. If you unfreeze it, the sun will immediately jump forward to match its position in accordance with the in-game time. Set weather severity allows you to dictate how bad the weather should be, and it operates on a scale between 0 and 100. 0 is sunny and bright, 100 is thunderstorms, and rain will be somewhere in the middle. This only affects biomes that are able to actually have rain or snow, and seems to do basically nothing in the desert. The effect also does take a little while to fade in or out. Set fog severity affects how prevalent the fog is. This seems a little buggy, to be honest, as the change is somewhere between barely noticeable and not even there. You can kind of just disregard this one. Set wind severity affects wind strength on a scale between 0 and 100. 0 is basically no wind, whereas 100 is windy as possible. Wind only really affects physics items like banners, as it seems trees will still sway in the wind even if it is set to 0. The default for this is 50. Set wind direction changes the direction the wind flows from. The default is 180 and it goes on a scale between 0 and 360. This is not too noticeable unless you have a highly wind reactive banner to test it with, or you pay close attention to the grass. All of the environmental controls are really quite useful to have, so it's worth playing around with them so you know how they work, so you can better control your experience. Next, let's shift focus to the top centre of the screen. Spawn NPCs does what it says on the tin, letting you spawn NPCs into the game. The panel will display almost every single entity in game and uses their internal name, not their nameplate, so it can be kinda hard to find what you're looking for sometimes. You'll also find enemies that just will not work on occasion, usually ones that are cut content, unfinished for a future update, or need other factors to work properly. There is a search bar at the top, and this is a great way to narrow down your options. You can spawn anything from Blackhand fighters to dungeon bosses just by clicking on them. If you hold left shift while clicking on something, it will instead spawn 5 of them, so I would advise using that with caution. There is a toggle on the bottom that will allow you to spawn enemies as thralls that go into your inventory. This of course only works on enemies that are thrallable anyway, but if you wanted to spawn thralls in, you can just do that rather than spawning aggressive enemies, knocking them out and breaking them. Finally, you can kill all spawned NPCs, not thralls but any normal enemies, with the button below the thrall toggle. Just next to the spawn dialog, player list is just a very small server management feature that shows you the players connected to the server, alongside the option to ban or whitelist them with a display for both options below. On the right side of the screen is the spawn item dialog, where you can spawn basically any item in the game. This is split into 4 categories, and those are resources, gear, buildings and other. Much like the NPC menu, the spawn item menu is a good way to find cut content, stuff that might be coming in the future, or just generally anything you're looking for. You can also see the contents of all the bazaar bundles here, which is good to know exactly what will be included in stuff like building bundles, especially if it hasn't come out yet. All of these categories are huge, so it's worth using the search bar right at the top to narrow down your options if you're after something specific. Of course, you can't spawn stuff from DLC packs, the Battle Pass or the Bazaar if you don't own them, but you are able to spawn items from Siptar on the Exiled lands and vice versa if you own Siptar, of course. So, let's look at the categories. Resources contains, well, most of your crafting resources like bark, bricks, metal bars, etc., alongside dyes, event currencies and such. Gear is anything designed for combat. That includes ammo for bows and siege machines, armour, weapons, shields and saddles. Building is anything you'd build with or place in the world, and that includes decorations, placeables and of course building pieces. Finally, other is other things. That includes pets and mounts, recipe scrolls, some other crafting resources, food stuff and more. For all the items you can click once to spawn one, hold left shift to spawn a full stack, or enter a custom quantity right at the bottom of each menu, and of course every click will spawn that custom quantity over and over again. Finally, going all the way back to the pause menu, creative mode. This is a one button solution for building and toggles multiple things at once. When you enter creative mode, you're given a construction hammer if you don't already have one, alongside the cloak, god, no building cost, no sprint cost, and unlock all recipes modifiers becoming active. You're also able to hit the jump button twice to fly and the same to go back to walking. Unlike manually toggling these options, creative mode only persists as long as you have it on and does not persist through game restarts. If you click exit creative mode on the pause menu, all of those modifiers are removed and you are essentially back to normal. The admin panel is one of Conan's most powerful tools. With just the flick of a switch or the press of a button, you can enable some of Conan's most powerful abilities, instantly delete enemies or buildings, fly around and under the map, spawn in anything and even more. Whilst you won't be able to use this on official servers, or for most people, likely the majority of the servers they might play on, it is invaluable for single player. Whether you just want to skip some particularly grindy content, explore the map without worry, find out what lies outside the cursed wall, or just practice your building, the admin panel and creative mode are the most powerful and flexible tools you can wield. I think that's doubly true for builders. I always say the best way to learn how to build is just to experiment and try, and creative mode really makes that seamless. I made a guide on the admin panel about 3 or 4 years ago now, and it's changed a bit since then, but also looking back I didn't really do it justice. Hopefully this video is a far more useful guide for players both old and new, and allows you to use the admin panel to its utmost flexibility. Don't forget to subscribe and join the coffee cult if you enjoyed this video for plenty more Conan Exiles content covering news, updates, lore, building and more every Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. Thank you for watching, and of course a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. I hope you all found the video helpful, take care, and I'll see you soon.